Welcome back to An Amber a Day, the Functional Nutrition Podcast. I'm Amber Fisher. Thank you so much for joining me. Those of you who are listening in your cars, on the train, going to work. Those of you watching on YouTube, hello. Thank you for wanting to watch my face talk about this stuff. I'm excited that you guys are here. This is episode 32. Today is January 9th for me as I'm recording this, And today we're talking about setting realistic goals because it's that time of the year where we're setting goals. So before we get into that, I'm gonna go over some stuff, personal stuff, just update you guys on my life. So as you all know, or can probably assume, January is one of the most busy months for a nutrition professional. So it has been jam-packed with not only new clients, but returning clients. With everyone tends to kind of stay quiet at the end of the year, and then they crawl out of the woodwork starting in early January. So I field a lot of messages and emails and things like that this time of the year. So those of you who are clients of mine who are listening, thank you for your patience with me during this month. It's always hectic. I am in the process of hiring a virtual assistant to help me with things. So that's exciting. And hopefully that will be in place very soon. And then, you will not have to deal with so many little things that, when one person's trying to do it all, trying to run the whole business and do all the administrative work, there are bound to be little mistakes and issues that pop up here and there. So I'm in the process, guys, of trying to set myself up for success. I'm so thankful for all of you who have helped make me successful. Your faith in me and your trust in me to help you with your health is the reason why I'm so busy. I fully credit my busyness this year and in years past with the wonderful word of mouth referrals from clients. Most people that I work with either find me through a client or, a client told friends and family and brought them in, or, I do have some people who find me on their own, but I do get a lot of business from clients, just word of mouth. So thank you guys. Thank you. Seriously, you help keep a small business running here, especially during really difficult times. So I'm grateful. I'm appreciative. If I haven't said it enough before, feeling it in my heart. I just have no time to say things that aren't absolutely necessary, right? So that's why I podcast, give myself an hour here and there once a week to kind of just catch everybody up on what's going on in my life. So that's work related stuff, personal stuff, I'm just same old stuff we're waiting on the baby to start walking. He is so close. Any day now, he's going to start taking his first steps, and that's exciting. I did give him, I'm cracking up because I gave him a Corona cut, guys. So we did travel over Christmas. It was a hard choice for us to make whether we were going to travel or not. My husband's family lives in northern Indiana, and they had not seen us in a while. The baby, this was supposed to be our year to go up there for Christmas, and it's our baby's so young, and they don't get to see him a lot, and so we sort of went back and forth, but eventually made the kind of agonizing decision to go ahead and go. And so we went up to Indiana to visit family, and we had a white Christmas. That was cool. But then when we got back, we decided to kind of quarantine at home for a couple weeks just to be safe and, prevent other people from potentially getting sick if in fact we had gotten sick, which we didn't, thank goodness. But my baby Calvin, he desperately needed a haircut. So I was like, I don't want to take him anywhere, I don't want to like run any more gambles here. So I decided to give him a Amber special, and so he got his first real haircut from me. He's had trims before. I've trimmed it, like I trim it off his ears and stuff like that, but this was a real haircut where I just sort of was like, here, let me take the comb, and you know how hairdressers do, where they pull the hair up and then they do this. Well, give me some credit, guys. It's not like you see him. If you follow me on Instagram, you can see I post stories of him here and there, but you've seen it. So it's not great. But I have to say, like, I'm defending myself here because cutting the hair of a baby is incredibly difficult. He just was not having it. He kept moving his head. He wanted to like bite the scissors. He didn't like the hair that would fall down, would like tickle him and itch him, and so he was upset. Couldn't get him to hold still. So I did the best I could under the circumstances. So but yeah, I think it looks fine. It looks fine, but we definitely we're gonna be taking him to a professional location in the future. So speaking of hair, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I put red back in my hair. So those of you who've known me for a long time know that back in 2018, I had like a crazy year where I was like, I'm going to do stuff to my hair that I've always wanted to do. I started thinking like, gosh, why am I so concerned about like what other people think about my hair? Like I'm kind of like I would consider myself like a slightly edgy kind of person. That's sort of that's my look, right? And so I've always, when I was younger, I had my nose pierced and I used to have like purple hair and I loved that. I was like, I felt so cool, and so now as I get like getting older, I'm like, man, I sort of miss that vibe, I miss like standing out a little bit. And so in 2018, I did some crazy stuff with my hair all throughout that year. Like I had it cut short. I like had it dyed. I had like peekaboo highlights that were hot pink, and then I turned them to like unicorn colors, and then I did red, and red is really my color. That's my favorite color. So I stuck with that for a long time. And I loved it, but eventually after about a year of having my hair like that, I got a little sick of looking at red all the time, and trying to match clothes to it. So I got rid of it, went back natural. And then, just the last couple of months, I've been getting bored again. I love to change my hair. So I was like, you know what? I miss red. I'm going to put some peekaboo highlights in my hair. So another Corona hair situation, and no offense at all to professional hairdressers. This is not quality work, but I will get back in the salon at some point soon and have a professional take care of this. But I did put a little bit of red in my hair. Did some peekaboo highlights. So if y'all are wondering like, wow, it looks like her head's on fire, that's because there's red hair dye in there. So this color, my friends, for those who want to know, is called Vampire Red by Manic Panic, because gotta go old school with the Manic Panic. So it is as they say, a vibrant blood red, which sounds just like right up my alley. So yeah, I actually at first dyed it Arctic Fox Poison. And that turned out very bright red. So if you guys want like a almost clown red, bright red color, lighten your hair and then put Arctic Fox Poison on it. It was like, whoa, it was almost an orangey red. It was still red, but it was like on that more of that orangey spectrum, which is not really my jam. So I had it like that for a couple days and I was like, nah, I gotta fix that. So now it's Vampire Red. So yeah, I'm feeling like a real badass with my hair like this now, guys. So anyway, that is personal stuff. So you guys must be in the same boat as me. We're all getting bored here. Coronavirus is starting to get real boring. There's a lot of uncertainty and unsettled energy in the ethers. Like people in the United States are crazy right now. Like I don't like to get into politics too much, but I've been disappointed with the anger, just the anger that is just everywhere now. And I think we all are feeling that on both sides of the spectrum. Like everyone's angry, So I think we're all like getting really stir crazy too. So get bored, you get stir crazy, you got a lot of energy, you got a lot of emotion. What do? Where's the outlet for that? Like right now, there's not as many outlets as there used to be. So anyway, outlet for me, dye my hair. And then, just like ramble to you guys on a podcast, If you guys like talk therapy, podcasting is a great thing that you can do. So I encourage you, start your own podcast. Everybody has one, right? So you can start one too. Talk about whatever. I love podcasts. Okay, that's enough. That is 10 minutes of me. So now we're going to move on to today's topic. So we're talking about setting goals. Why am I talking about this? Well, okay, so as a nutritionist, it's like kind of the default that I'm always going to have to talk about, New Year's resolutions. And the reason for that is because, it's my busiest time of year. People do find me and do start to come see me because of New Year's resolutions that they set for themselves. So, right off the bat, I want to tell you, I'm not anti New Year's resolution. I know that there's like different opinions on that. And like, it's not like, it's weird how things are cyclical because like, there was a time when it was like really popular to make a New Year's resolution, New Year's goal. It was like, saying that something about you, that you made goals for yourself. And then now it's sort of become like the fashion to kind of like be nonchalant about things. Like us millennials, we're always doing that, right? Everything's ironic. Everything's like, I don't care, but I really care, but I don't care. So now the whole I don't care is about making New Year's resolutions. And then almost like even some people even vilify them and act like they're like body shaming or whatever. I don't get into that, guys. Like, I like to take a balanced view of everything. So to me, New Year's resolutions, yes, there are pitfalls with them, but there are also benefits to them. And I tend to like to set them for myself. I don't set like hard and fast like rules with them where if I don't fulfill them, then I'll be think like I'm a terrible person. But I do like to set goals for myself and have deadlines for them so that I know like, hey, I met my, like I said I was going to do this and then I did it. It's always been important for me in my life to have goals and have things to look forward to. I think it's human nature to get bored with where you are, to want to, achieve more and go further. And having realistic, like feasible goals for myself sort of helps me do that in a way that then is rewarding. So if I set a goal and then I meet it and it feels good. It feels good to meet those goals and you feel accomplished and you can like, hang your hat up at the day proud that you accomplished your goals. So I think there's benefits to them. I know personally for me, I have always found that there's some benefit to setting a New Year's goal. Now, we can get into pitfalls with that too, because right, if we attach too much of our personal opinions about ourselves to those goals, and then life gets in the way, or this happens or that happens, or we choose the wrong goals that we think we want but we don't really want, and then don't end up pursuing them, which is often what happens. Then we feel like, gosh, what's wrong with me? Why can't I stick to anything? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the psychology of setting realistic goals, how to make them last, how to make them sustainable. And I think that's really important, not just for New Year's, but all year round. So I often, it's a big topic of mine that when people do come to me interested in working with me, that they be ready, right? Like that they're motivated. And there's a certain energy that you get from a person who's really ready to go, who's really ready to make changes. And I've gotten over the years, more successful at picking that energy up. That energy is so important because that motivation is really what separates the weak from the strong, or the wheat from the chaff, or whatever you want to call it. It's really what makes the difference between a person who is not going to go the distance with their goals and a person who is. And as a nutrition professional, it is much more rewarding for me in my work to work with somebody who's motivated, because that person is going to take what I tell them and they're going to run with it, and they're going to make it work for them, and they're going to find the answers for it, and they're not going to make excuses, and they're not going to, come back and blame things on me. Oftentimes as the person who's like pushing people forward, who's the catalyst for change, you also often get the brunt of their defensiveness, of their, their defense mechanisms, of their anger at themselves. They deflect it onto you. So I deal with that, with clients from time to time, where they, blame their lack of success on either, gosh, the meal plan was too hard, or it's not sustainable, or this or that, that people have it, their excuses, right? And I've learned to kind of like let that slide off of me, because I know that it's just an internal defense mechanism for people. But it is so much more rewarding and less frustrating when I'm working with somebody who I know is not going to do that, because they're really ready to take responsibility for themselves, and they're really ready to move forward. And that's not to say that I'm never wrong, like that, I've been wrong before, and I will admit when I'm wrong. But those of you who are in nutrition know what I'm talking about. Okay. So setting realistic goals. So there's ways to do this right. There's ways to do this wrong. And the first thing that we have to look at to make sure that our goal is going to be something that we're actually going to stick with is we have to find our why. So we talk about this in nutrition a lot. Finding your why is finding your motivation, finding your reason for doing this. And particularly with nutrition, and particularly when we talk about weight loss, if that's, I know that's a lot of people's goals at the beginning of the year, right? Particularly when we talk about those things, we have to know our motivation why. And in some cases, knowing our motivation why will change our goal. And here's why. So a lot of times at the beginning of the year, people make a goal about losing weight, right? Because people, they're unsatisfied with how they look or how they feel or whatever. And they think, they make the next logical step is like, okay, I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I feel. I need to lose weight. That sometimes is the case, right? So like sometimes weight loss is the goal. I have worked with people who truly their motivation was weight loss. It was a certain look that they wanted to achieve, a certain weight range that they wanted to be healthy, and that was the goal, and it worked for them. But 9 times out of 10, just saying I want to lose weight is not really connecting to the actual thing that you want. So I posted about this on Instagram the other day, because there's a lot of things that people are saying when they say I want to lose weight. And what they're really saying is they really want, primarily it's they want a better self-image. They want to like have more confidence in themselves. They want to look at themselves in the mirror and feel the way that they either feel inside or that they used to feel. They want to fit in their clothes. They want to be a certain type of person that they either once were or that they've always imagined themselves being. So, and that type of person, it's not so much physical appearance, but physical appearance is the thing that sort of brings all this stuff together, because it represents this person that they want to be. And this person is confident, and this person goes for what they want and does what they want to do and goes the places that they want to go and has no fear, So for example, this person that they want to be wears a 2-piece swimsuit to the beach and feels confident and sexy in it, that's a lot of women. They think those things. So what is it that this woman really wants? Is it really that she wants to lose weight and be, a size 2, or is it the fact that she wants to feel confident and sexy in a swimsuit and walk around? Well, it's the sexy and confident part, but she's associating that sexy confidence with a certain dress size or with a certain weight. And the reality is that while there may be some work that needs to be done physically to help get her mind there, the mind is the real thing that's holding her back. And so it's really the goal, really the motivation really is internal, right? So, and what else are people talking about when they lose weight? Well, then another thing is that they don't want to have fear of the future. So fear is a big motivator. Because when people are overweight and they're fixated on their weight, a lot of times it's because they're fixated on the potential complications of having excess body fat. And those complications do exist. As a nutritionist, as a professional, I feel it's my responsibility to tell the truth. I think that sometimes in our sort of modern culture, we have gotten to a place where we don't like to tell the truth about weight. We don't like to tell the truth about body fat percentage, and we like to act like you can be healthy at any size. That's just not what the scientific, literature has found. I wish it were, and I totally believe in being, confident and not beating up on yourself and not feeling guilty for the size that you are. However, it doesn't change the fact that there are certain standards that need to be met in order to ensure a more healthy balance. That doesn't mean that then people don't get sick. They do, but in a lot of cases, BMI or better body fat percentage really do play a role in our overall health, right? So people, when they know they're overweight, then they fear those consequences of being overweight that are often associated with that. Blood sugar imbalances that can lead to diabetes, or heart attacks, stroke, all these kinds of things blood pressure problems. These are all things that people worry about. So when they talk about losing weight, what they're really talking about is feeling safe. They want to feel safe in their bodies. They want to feel safe that they will make it to, old age or whatever it may be. So as you can see, saying I want to lose weight is fine and good and whatever, but it doesn't really get to the root of what the real motivation is. So sometimes in cases like that, for example, with the fear of health thing, it's actually better to make a New Year's resolution of something specific to a health marker. So saying like, I would like to get my cholesterol into the normal range, for example, or I would like to, I would like to feel healthier and have more energy. And whatever that may entail. So, and that may be a more effective goal, although it's still a general goal, but it may be more effective for you than saying, I want to lose weight, because it really connects more to what you really, really want to do. Same thing with body image stuff, like make your goal, I want to feel sexy and confident in a two-piece swimsuit, right? And so that will help you to not just focus on what you need to do to fit into that swimsuit, but also what you need to do internally to sort of accept yourself, to accept your body. This is a little aside, but I think with women, I see this a lot when we talk about body image. And women often have this goal or this vision for their bodies that's not realistic. Your body shape is your body shape. So if you're pear-shaped, for example, which means that you have wider hips, you're always going to be a person that has wider hips. So you can lose 10 pounds, you can lose 20 pounds, but your shape is always going to be pear-shaped. Within a certain healthy body fat percentage range, that can look beautiful. Any body type can look beautiful. And it's not, saying that this body type is better than that body type, but if you're pear-shaped, you should be aware that you're always going to be pear-shaped. And that's just the truth. Like, you're not going to go from one day to the next, or from, losing 20 pounds and have a completely different, you're not going to have an athletic build, athletic body type as a pear-shaped woman. Like, your thighs will always be, somewhat larger. Your hips will always be somewhat larger than the rest of your body in context. Same thing, like for me, I'm more of a, apple shape, so even when I lose the weight that I want to lose, like for example, over the last year, I've been working on losing the baby weight that I gained. I've gained 40 pounds, during pregnancy. So I've been working on that and finally got back to my usual size. But I still carry most of my weight in my stomach and in my torso. That's just how I am. If you've ever seen like a full body picture of me, you know that I have thin legs, but I carry a lot of my weight in the middle. And that's always true. I've been smaller than this and it's still true. So your shape is your shape. You can't change that. So when we look at these goals of weight loss and change, we also have to look at, okay, the realistic nature of them, right? And then how they connect to our image of ourselves. And that's why doing body image work and looking at how to achieve confidence that has nothing to do with your weight, that isn't dependent on your weight, is so important. Because I can guarantee you, I've seen it 100 times, a person can get to their goal weight and they will still find flaws in themselves. They will still find things that they don't like or that they want to change. This happens a lot with pear-shaped women for whatever reason. Most women, I guess, are pear-shaped, but they will get to their goal weight and then they're like, well, my thighs are still fat. That's what I hear a lot. My thighs are still fat. And they don't see how beautiful they are. They don't see how great they look because they're so concerned, hyper-focused on their fat thighs, to them. So that body image stuff is really important, right? And that's where I think the body positivity movement goes right. I also think there's places where it goes wrong, like when we talk about weight loss as if it's evil, or when we talk about wanting to be a healthy body fat percentage as if it's like some sort of like thing with the patriarchy or something. That's where I think it gets a little ridiculous. But it also is important for us as women, to recognize that like this is the shape that your body is and it's beautiful, and it's beautiful how it is. Like God doesn't make mistakes, right? And that's a lesson for me too, ladies. All right. Those of you who know maybe I need to do a podcast about body image now that I'm talking about this. I'm like, I have a lot to say about body image, because this is something that all women I think struggle with. And in particular, me as a woman who is a nutritionist, of course I struggle with body image. I've talked about it before. So this is a learning curve for me as well. But we need to connect to our why. We need to connect to our motivation and our reason. So whatever your goal is, the first and most important thing is to think about it in those terms, to think about it emotionally, to connect with it, to try to understand what's my deeper motivation. Self-awareness is the foundation for all success in life. If we're not self-aware, if we don't know what we really want, we will just continue spinning our wheels, saying things that are motivated by, our husbands or boyfriends or family or culture or whatever it may be, and that don't really connect with our true wants. And then what happens, right? We're not successful because we don't really want it. We just say we do to get other people off our backs. So we have to make these goals and we have to make these motivations from a place that really connects deeply to us and to what we want. And that's different for everybody. So my suggestion would be take the time to do that. Nobody says that you have to. It's January 9th and we're still talking about New Year's resolutions. Why? Because a lot of people still haven't finalized theirs, and that's okay. Like, there's nothing that says that they have to be finalized by January 1st. But we do need to eventually finalize them, right? We do need to eventually kind of come to terms and come to a conclusion on like, okay, this is what my goals are going to be, and this is how long I'm going to take to do them, and whatever it may be. So spend the time up front. I'd rather you take that time, take a while thinking about these things than just like jump in with something that you don't really care about. For example, I'll give you a personal example. So I still haven't said anything about what my New Year's resolutions for the year are, because I have been sitting around thinking about them. And they're kind of like morphing and changing as this month goes on. And I feel foggy about where I want to go in 2021. So I kind of know where I want to go with business, but with personal goals, with health goals, I want to connect to something that really, really means something to me. I was telling people, yeah, this year I want to lose like 10 pounds. because that's the kind of weight that has always eluded me. Even at my thinnest weight, I wasn't this weight that I wanted to be, right? So I can understand, guys. But the more I think about it, the more I watch myself and the choices I'm making with food and the choices I'm making with caloric balance and exercise and things like that, I'm realizing I really don't want that. Like, I mean, sure, I wouldn't say no to losing 10 pounds, and I'm not going to be sad if at the end of 2021 I'm 10 pounds lighter, right? But at the same time, it's not really connecting deeply with my motivation for this year, because my motivation for this year has a lot more to do with my business, with focus on my growth and outreach and expansion, with my education. This year is going to be huge for me with education. I'm going through my Institute for Functional Medicine Certified Practitioner, IFMCP. If that's not long enough, but I'm starting working on that. And so, this year is going to be a lot about that for me, about expanding my mind and then expanding my my reach with my practice. So you only have so much motivational energy. You only have so much determination. Willpower is not this inexhaustible pool. We know from the studies that willpower actually is, a finite amount, and you only have so much to pull from. Once you pull from it, you have to wait for that pool to fill back up. So for me, I'm draining that pool for business. I'm draining that pool for outreach, and not necessarily for a vanity goal of looking a certain way that, realistically, do I really care that much? I mean, I'm a healthy body weight. Like, I feel good about myself now. I fit in my clothes again. Like, when I look in the mirror, I'm like, yeah, you look good. So do I really, really want to lose 10 pounds? No. Because if I did, I would already have done it. Like, if I did, I would already be working on it. You know what I'm saying? The same thing with goals. Like, if we address them from like a logic perspective too much, then they don't connect to what we really want and our desire. And then, willpower is always connected to desire, not so much connected to logic. Like, you can logically tell yourself like eating at fast food places is like bad for you. But if your desire tells you, gosh, I really want to eat at fast food places more than I really want to be healthy, then what are you going to do? You're going to eat at fast food places. Whereas if your desire is, gosh, I really want to feel safe and vibrant and energetic, then you're not going to be as vulnerable to the times when you're like, maybe I should get fast food, or gosh, it's been a long day and I don't feel like cooking, so let me get fast food. So there's something to be said about connecting to your desire, connecting to your willpower, and then putting that into logical, practical terms and kind of like understanding it from both perspectives. So find your why. Next thing we got to do to set a realistic goal that's actually going to work is we have to be really, really specific. So for the example of weight loss, it is much more effective to say, I want to lose 10 pounds, or even better than that, I want to be under 28% body fat, because 18 to 28% is the healthy body fat range for females. So to say, like, I would like to be under this place or under that place, rather than I want to lose weight. Okay, you want to lose weight, but like, how much weight do you want to lose, right? And we hear this a lot. I know this is advice that you guys have heard before, because when it comes to goal setting, this is always like something that comes up, like, be specific, right? But it's really important to do, because if you do set a goal that's very vague, it's much harder to set benchmarks for yourself. And if you don't set benchmarks for yourself, then you have to just purely connect only with like your willpower and your motivation, and that runs out at some point. Whereas if you have benchmarks, you're more likely to kind of like be able to use your logical brain for it too, and sort of drag yourself along while your willpower builds back up. So they work together. So be really, really specific. So for this goal, being under 28% body fat, that's a great goal. Now, when we get specific, we can also figure out, are we being realistic? If you weigh, if you're 38% body fat, getting under 28% body fat within a year, that's going to be a really hard goal for you to reach. It's not impossible, but it's going to be a really tough goal. Whereas, if you're, let's say you're 40% body fat or something, maybe getting under 35% or 33%, maybe that's a better goal for the year. So a lot depends on once you know what your goal is and you're very specific, then you can sort of look at the data and figure out, okay, is this also realistic? Because it has to be specific, but it also has to be realistic. Specific, realistic. Kind of rhymes. So being specific, being realistic, how do you figure out if you're being realistic? Ha ha ha, that's the hard part, right? Sure, you could Google it. I'll give you a few little pointers here for those of you who need some realistic goal setting. For weight loss purposes, it's generally realistic to look at losing 0.5 pound to 1 pound of body fat a week, which I know is not what you want to hear. Particularly if you are a petite woman, if you are around 5 foot, under 5'5", I would say, you're going to be looking closer to that 0.5 pound. And this is averages because weight loss comes in shoots and starts. So you're looking at an average over the course of a year, weekly loss of around 0.5 pound. That's realistic. That's a realistic goal. Not to say that you can't lose more. Sometimes you do. But that's a realistic goal. 2 pounds a week is not realistic unless you are very overweight or very tall, or a man, you guys. But even not all men even can do that. I mean, it is, men do have an easier time, I won't lie. Like their bodies are not as connected to hormonal fluctuations, which helps with water retention, and it helps them with weight loss. But men still have trouble, and particularly if men have metabolic damage, they still have trouble. So that's realistic as far as pounds per week. So yeah, like you could Google it, like you could look up your basal metabolic rate and then, do math calculations from there and all that stuff. Or if this is a real goal that you really desire and that's really connected to your motivation for the year, you could think about working with a professional. Just putting it out there, guys. Also, there are lots of great practitioners out there who can help you lose weight. If that's, your goal or your need or whatever it may be. So working with a professional, what that helps you do is really get an idea of timelines. One of the things that I love to do for people is to give them more realistic timelines. So we sit down at our first appointment as we're kind of going over what to expect and what I want them to eat and all that. And I also will look at and say, okay, like this is what your in-body scan. So I do like bioimpedance scans. This is what your scan says. This is how much body fat we need to lose in pounds. This is how many % we need to lose. Here's a realistic timeline for what that looks like when we're looking at, a conservative idea of say 0.5 pound a week or 1 pound a week. So, that's really helpful, I think, for people, because more often than not, when people first come to see me and we're talking about weight and we're talking about realistic timelines for weight loss, their timeline for how long it's going to take them to lose the weight and the actual timeline of what I think it's going to take them to lose the weight is very different. So, within like months different. Like I tend to kind of play the long game here, and I'm like, look, we're going to be working on this probably for a little over a year, but most people are like, oh, in 3 months, I want to be here. And that's just because they've got this goal, they're connected to it, right? But they haven't done the work of making it realistic, and they haven't done the work of being specific. Once you're specific, you realize when you're being a little bit silly, and that helps. We've got to be realistic about this, because if we really want it to work, we can't set ourselves up for failure. In 3 months, we'll be like, gosh, I'm only down 10 pounds and, not anywhere close to where I thought I would be. And that makes us feel bad. And then we want to give up, right? Whereas if you look at it from my perspective as a nutritionist, I'm like, wow, you lost 10 pounds in those 3 months. Like that's really good progress. Like it's really good, steady progress towards your goal. If you just keep going, like we're going to get there. So reframing it, looking at it from a different perspective often helps. And that's where being specific can be really helpful. Okay, once we're specific, then we break it up into parts. This is important too, because we have to have little chances to celebrate, especially if we've got a big goal. Like if our goal, for example, with cholesterol is like to get your cholesterol in the normal range and it's really high, we don't want to just like wait until we get there to celebrate. Like if we have little celebrations along the way, like, hey, I had a checkup and it's down this many points or whatever. Or with autoimmunity, like, I made it through the first couple of months of my autoimmune meal plan and I don't have joint pain in the mornings anymore, or whatever it may be. These little wins, these little goals are really important. So if we set timelines for that, that helps a lot. So as a professional nutritionist, I set these timelines for my clients in a lot of cases. So, I guess here's an example, like when we're working on food sensitivity recovery, which I do with it's a part of the plan for almost all of my clients. It's part of the process, right? So I make these little goals of like, okay, within a month, I want them to be here with their weight. I want them to be here with their food sensitivity recovery. And we'll start doing this, this, and this. Within 3 months, I want them here. Within 6 months, I want them here. And when we reach those goals, then I get to congratulate them and be like, great, we're here now. Now here's the next thing that we get to do. Here's the thing that we get to add, or here's the reward, for this process. That's really, really important, because if I sit somebody down and I tell them, okay, so I've got a year's worth of work for you to do. We're going to get started today, and I'm just going to expect you to just do all of this, just keep going with every phase of the process, and then we'll check back in a year and figure out, how you've been doing. People are not going to make it a year. They need those little steps along the way, those little goalposts to look forward to. It's like when you run, if you guys have ever run like long distance, if you've run a marathon, hey, there's an example, but if you've ever run a marathon, you have like mile markers, right, that you want to get to. Once you get there, you feel good. Yeah, you still got a lot of work to do, but you've got all that behind you as well. So it's important to have little goals within the bigger goal, not just to give you something to look forward to, but to also give you something to hold you accountable. If we don't have accountability with our goals, then we often find that like the world and the chaos of our lives gets in the way of us meeting them. This is particularly true with weight loss. It can be easy to put weight loss on the back burner when, somebody's this or that's going on, and it's easier to get fast food for a while, and before you know it, we're back to where we were before. Whereas if we have these little steps along the way that we know we're looking forward to, it kind of keeps it in our heads. It keeps it forefront of the mind. And that's one reason why working with a professional is so helpful, because it's almost like each time we have an appointment, that's another one of those goalposts for you. So, I find that people do tend to be more successful tackling their health issues or their weight issues or whatever it may be when they are working with a professional, just because of that, because the nutritionist is the accountability partner, the nutritionist is the goal setter, the nutritionist helps you connect to your why. Like that's all the things that we're trained to do. So that's an important part of the process. Okay. And then setting deadlines for ourselves. So it goes along with everything that we've been talking about, but when we have a realistic goal, then we can set a realistic deadline for that goal. So with weight loss in particular, like I said, people often have a deadline for themselves that's unrealistic. And so when they hit that deadline, they're going to feel bad about themselves. The other mistake is to set the deadline too far away, right? And that's why reasonable goalposts along the way is important. But it's also important to have a final deadline that is realistic as well. And, that's not to say that deadline can't move. Like it can shift depending on where we're at, what's going on, and all those kinds of things. But it's important to say like, okay, I want to be here by here. When it comes to New Year's, like December 31st, like that's our deadline, right? So we want to make these reasonable goals that fit within that time frame. And we want to know like, okay, December 31st, like this is what I'm going to grade myself on. it gets tricky here because like obviously I'm human too, and I know that not always when we set a goal do we actually accomplish it, and sometimes our desires change and sometimes our motivations change. I've seen that in work with people a lot, where we start off with one goal and by the time we get done together, like their opinions about themselves, their opinions about food, their ideas about health have morphed so much that their goals are completely different, you know. So it's like it's setting a deadline. It can never be 100% hard and fast, like absolute. There's always going to have to be a little bit of wiggle room, and I think that's important for humans. But I also really think it's important for humans to hold themselves accountable for things. I think it's important for our psychology, for our sense of self-worth, to meet our deadlines, to meet our goals. I know, like, as a self-employed person, if I don't set deadlines and goals for myself, then it feels like I'm spinning my wheels, you know, because it's like there's always work to do. There's always things that come up. Same thing is true for health. You're never going to be completely done with health. Like you're never going to be in this perfect state of like optimal health. We don't live in that world. We don't live in a place where we can achieve optimal health. So we're always just climbing this mountain, climbing this ladder, reaching for it. And it's important to be aware of that. But it's also important to like keep trying and keep setting those deadlines and those goals for ourselves. So, you know, human nature is different for different people. Like personalities respond differently to deadlines and goals. My personality responds great to that kind of stuff because I'm a procrastinator. So if you don't give me a deadline, then I will not get it done. Like I will wait and wait and wait. So I give myself deadlines, right? I'm my own boss. So I make my own deadlines, and that sounds nice, but those of you who are self-employed know that you're often a much meaner boss to yourself than like somebody else would be. So not to say that I'm not grateful, because I am. But yeah, we've got to set deadlines. So, all right. That's setting realistic goals. That's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. I really want to know what goals you guys have for the year, how you're meeting them, how you're achieving them, or, you know, even if you know what you did last year and how you achieved that. I mean, in the context of such a crazy year, I'm curious with you guys. But what I want to do to close things up is remind you, please ask questions for the podcast. Guys, I love answering your questions. You guys inspire me. So at some point here in the future, I would love to have like monthly podcasts or something dedicated just to answering you guys' questions. So please send me questions to anamberadaypodcast@gmail.com. You can find the link for all this stuff in the show notes. Follow me on Instagram if you don't already, at Amber Fisher Nutritionist. Follow me and Gabby. We do a show called Eat With Us, where we eat at local restaurants here in San Antonio and show you how to eat healthy off the menus there. That's at eatwithus_SATX. You can also find that on YouTube, Eat With Us SATX. And what else? You know, what else? I don't know. Those are all my links. Find them below. But I hope you guys have a really good rest of the week, really good rest of January. You know, stay strong. It's hard out there right now. Be the light. I think there's so much darkness around us, and it's so important for those of us who are called to be lights in this world to really shine our lights right now. So I know a lot of you are lights. I feel it. I feel your light. So shine it bright to all, you know, your friends, your family. Like, be kind, be generous, be everything that the world right now is not. We need it. All right. I'm going to close things up. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.